This podcast contains adult themes and language. The views expressed here are our own opinions and experiences. We are not medical professionals.
In this podcast, we discuss our opinions about mental health, sobriety, addiction, and our pursuit of happiness and peace. This is Sober Mind.
Oh yeah, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Odie's always first, man.
Odie.
Saturday, December 9th.
Yeah.
We're going to do
Yes.
intros?
Yeah.
Make sure we get them.
Yep. Good morning. My name is John,
I'm Judy.
And I'm Patrick.
and this is Sober Mind, grown folk conversations, where we discuss mental health, sobriety, and our journeys throughout that whole process. I was about to say battle. It's a battle.
Yeah, some days it is.
Yeah.
We need to get Kellen to do a voice over for the grown folk conversation tag.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
All right.
Definitely.
Yeah. I need to. Yeah. He's got. I told. We could rent him out, man. He's
Yeah,
got.
right.
He's got that voice. Good morning, Lisa. Odie, grown folk, 90%. Good morning, Fem Army.
Grown folk, yeah, the other 5% is 12-year-old toilet humor.
Yeah.
I think we touched on potty humor last time.
Right. Fem's here as well.
Yep. Good morning. All right, we are going to get started. Today's background music, as always, from Harris Heller Stream Beats, free, royalty-free music for all of your stream needs. Not sponsored, although I sound like it is.
Sponsored by you.
I've been waiting all year to play this one. It is a very lo-fi Christmas. Super excited about this one, so we'll have this going in the back. Okay, before we get into our gratitude, we're going to. Sorry, this is a long title, and I keep butchering it. Today, we're going to be talking about mental health inclusion efforts. In short, words have power, and some words can be used to further the stigma around mental illness regardless of the intention. The good news is that adjusting our language can have the reverse effect. It can help to normalize.
There it is.
There we go.
Man, what the hell? Odie.
Sorry, folks.
Yeah, our virtual producer saving our tail. OBS woes.
Do we think it's the Spotify plugin?
I don't know.
When Odie streams, he talks about their beta audio and the different
That is it.
audio input stuff causes a lot of issues.
How does that app window?
Yeah. So they have to, he often has to resort to desktop capture. There's a way that we can build this around it, and I can show you how. I have some hardware at home.
See, now we can't hear the stream beats. Strange.
That's okay.
That's what it is. I think you just narrowed it down. Okay. Sorry, guys. So we figured it out. It's an issue with OBS, and I think Odie has the same issue when he's doing his streams. It's the application capture for Spotify.
We were at describing what mental health inclusion efforts entail
Yes.
before we got sidetracked.
Okay, words have power, and some words can be used to further the stigma around mental health illness, regardless of the intention. The good news is that adjusting our language can have the reverse effect. It can help to normalize mental health.
Yep.
So, take it away, Patrick.
We'll
Are
do
we-
gratitude.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
We were teeing that up. Now we're all sorts of discombobulated.
I get all discombobulated. I told Judy this morning, she's like, "Are you excited for this show?" I'm like, "Well, as long as we don't have any technical issues."
And he goes, once we have technical issues, I'm only 50% there.
I do. I get totally distracted and pulled away. I don't. I just want to sit here and have a good conversation. This is like 3 times in a row.
You got this.
I'm still having gratitude just around waking up, being sober every day. I got nothing grand lately. I've been trying to do a YouTube short every day for December. I did not do it today because I woke up a little bit late. And you know what? I told myself, I'm like, it's just a self-imposed goal. Who cares? Sleep in, crush your Reese's.
Crush your Reese's.
Crush your
'Cause
Reese's.
you know in your heart you'll get to it when it's available.
Yeah.
And if you try to push it, it's always going to turn out bad.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. But anyway, my gratitude lately has just been that. Been waking up consistently in a good mood for the last couple weeks, and thinking about always being sober. It's nice.
Nice.
That's it. Nothing. No fireworks.
It doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be. I'm pretty much the same.
Yeah.
I don't have. I'm grateful. I think I'm grateful for my family, for all my family and my friends who are around me, people who are awesome people to surround myself with. That I'm just grateful for everybody around me.
Love it.
Mine today is I am grateful for sobriety delivers what alcohol promises.
That's
I
a good
was,
one.
Like thinking back on, like I meditated on, the growth and the journey I've been on for the past 3 years, and I, for whatever reason, went down the path to stop to think about like what that might look like if I was still on the struggle bus as much. Well, I'm still on the struggle bus. I'm just like, not on it as occasionally. Just trying to think what my life would be like, if I were still on the same trajectory as I was before.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me realize that, like, if for whatever frustrations I have now, I'm like, every aspect of my life has improved. Some just a little, some a lot, but the fact that they're all in positive progress in itself is I'm grateful. That's a small miracle for me.
That's awesome.
Like just looking back on all the cool things that have happened, it's pretty awe-inspiring. And so that's what I was saying, we often say one raindrop doesn't blame itself for the flood, or, trying to recognize, you're trying to watch a glacier move, right? It's not going to happen immediately right in front of you, where we always want to be, immediate change. But I got to look back 3 years and see, like, wow, that's a lot of progress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I'm gonna
Cody said the background music is having issues now.
What's the issues, Odie? From 5,000 miles away, Odie.
Yeah, but I thought that was a kind of a nice one.
That is a good one.
On.
I think everybody who's going through this journey needs to look back, and see the progress that they've made to give themselves a little pat on the back for the achievements that they've achieved so far.
Yeah,
And how far they've come.
and this stems into our topic today about changing the dialogue. I'd shared the story about how smashing a bag of Reese's sometimes may be more appropriate than just trying to beat yourself up for, eating candy to avoid drinking, right? That's a win.
Yeah,
right?
that's definitely a
And
win.
you're like, well, it's not fireworks. It's not me getting completely sober. Well, guess what? It's one tiny positive step in the right direction. And over time, those add up, by treating yourself and changing the language, being empathetic for yourself and creating that space for you. It's that one. I have this stuck in my head. What is the other Buddhist parable? Be mindful of your thoughts because they become our words. careful of your words because they become our actions. Be
Actions.
careful of our actions become our habits, and be careful of your habits as they become our character. And it's just all on that line, you know, like, and I'm happy today that we get to talk about how words are a part of that and just understanding the context that they sit in. And in fact, Fem Army Vet's here, and this topic kind of got broached because I stopped by her Twitch channel, and she has a med timer, you know, for those who take medications. She's a veteran that, you know, she's spoken many times about how that's important for her and, you know, like part of the community to be able to help reduce that stigma. And I thought that was a pretty cool item. And, you know, I began to thought about what if we were to change our language, you know, we struggle here and we're talking about addiction because at its fundamental core, we had to do baby steps like that. Smashing the bag of Reese's mentally was learning simple things like there's a difference between I am sad and I am feeling sad. Right? So I wanted to talk more about like, what does that really mean to like kind of shape our words like that and the mental health inclusion efforts and groups and everything like that. Like,
Yeah. Let's jump into it. This is, it's a really apropos topic anyway, because I need this reminder sometimes in life. Excuse me. To Odie. It's like a distracting squirrel running around.
Yeah, right.
You know, I'm guilty of this. Judy and I are in our 50s, and when we were growing up, it was we just said things because,
Well, that's what we heard all the time.
yeah, the legit excuse is we didn't know any better. You know, we used to say things like, "Oh, that's so retarded," or "Oh man, that's so gay." And as I grew up, I quickly started to realize that is really uncouth to say shit like that. And so as I get older, I really try to moderate a lot of that stuff too. But with that, unfortunately, I start to hear, you know, because I hyper focus in on that shit now too. So because that's how the clown show works. So I hear stuff and that is, "Oh man, the Chiefs lost last night. That made me super depressed." And I want to go, motherfucker, you don't know. If that made you super depressed, then, you know, let's talk about it, because I have clinical depression. It's hell. Has nothing to, I don't
You're not
get
depressed, you're just sad.
clinically depressed from the Chiefs losing. It's not a thing. So I don't know. Am I too sensitive about it? I don't think so.
Well, I think a lot of people who are struggling with these things are not, I mean, of course they're sensitive about it. They're going through it. And then to hear somebody just off the cuff say, you know, I'm depressed, it kind of downgrades what they're going through and makes it kind of mainstream.
It diminishes it a little bit. And I do get my feelings hurt if we're just being candid. I might be a pansy about it because, you know, going back to what you talked about, Patrick, and that is once I got sober, I've shared on here that the honeymoon was over really quick. You know, I had a good 2 months spread of, "Oh, sobriety is great. I'm sleeping awesome." And then that shit just hit the ceiling, and I became, I had to go to therapy. I had to get medication management going and figure out Fem Army, you know, a bunch of military PTSD stuff and childhood abuse PTSD, and all that stuff started to surface. And then here came the panic disorders and the anxiety and the depression. And Judy watched me go through all this for 2 years and suffer for it. And I've really started to just come out on the other side, like 10 months ago now. And that was a lot of work. And then, you know, to hear someone say they got really depressed about the Chiefs game, because what I feel, I'm getting hopped up about this. What I feel like is when then
get it. Tell us how you feel.
Well, I'm gonna fucking tell you when I tell people, you can tell, especially at work, Patrick, when people are like, "How's it going?" And I noticed, you know, you have this your TPS report wasn't formatted properly. And it's like, I've been really depressed. I'm working through a lot of mental health issues. And they're like, well, just go do yoga and you'll be okay.
Just downward dog your way out of it. You're okay.
Downward dog your way out of it. And so it's the, there's a lot of talking all the time about Mental Health Awareness Month and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, what is your awareness about it? Because you're throwing these words around like, oh, I don't like that pen out of place because it really gets my OCD going. Obsessive compulsive disorder is a heavy duty, debilitating, crippling mental health issue that people deal with. You shouldn't just throw like, do you have OCD or just not like that fucking pen out of place?
Yeah.
So I think this stems from, we talk about.
I'm not done with my rant.
Sorry.
I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Don't call me out on that. I just like how that kind of aligns with our predictive behavior modeling that the brain wants to do. That's essentially what ego is, expecting certain things to happen in a certain way. If I don't understanding, that's where that's like we were so dismissive of, oh, I have OCD. I can't do this without, I have to like fold my towels first. And it's like, well, that shows that you don't really understand the breadth of it. Right. And you're being kind of dismissive of, what it entails just in order to like, either try and get a cheap gag out of it or whatever. I wanted to bring up, if I can remember my password. We're touching on kind of there's like 4 good suggestions here around normalizing mental health. And these aren't inclusive of mental health because they work in a lot of other communities and just personal awareness growth. The first one I love is use first person language.
Yes.
Right. Because, that was really hard for me getting sober, knowing the difference between I am sad or I am feeling sad and I am sad. Right. Because that forced me to turn inward and really try to find either adjectives or better describe like, this is the sucky part of addiction of, one of the things that we fear the most is just being with ourselves. When the triggers would come, I can't fucking deal with this. Give me a fucking, whatever poison it is, for that, holiday season right now would be the, whatever. The Nutcracker Ale.
Brandy and eggnog or Nutcracker
Brandy,
Ale.
yeah. I can't fucking deal with this person. I need one
Celebrator.
of those. And so like that would force me to turn in, like if I said I can't deal with this now, like what are you feeling? What are you trying to work through? What do you need to process? What do we need to make space for?
What's the deep down reason why you're having this reaction to whatever this is?
Do you want to like just pickle it and just put it up on the shelf for it to like, ferment and, give you more trauma and other shit to deal with later? Or do you really want to fix it? Yeah. So now we have to look inward and say like, so a good example of this, extending this outward to somebody is exactly like you said. The example that they gave is that person is bipolar rather than they have bipolar disorder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's one of those small, tiny things that we talk about. It's not going to save the world, that one statement. But over time, that aggregation of all that type of language, it's helped breaking that stigma. Same with alcoholics. Saying somebody, like treating an alcoholic as they are mental or morally deficient, oh yeah, that person's an alcoholic, rather than that person is dealing with alcoholism. That's a very profound statement.
I think it takes the person. They're still a person. It leaves them their I don't know, dignity, I guess.
They're not less than. They're not broken.
They're still who they are. They just have this issue that they're going through.
Yeah, the statement.
Instead of labeling them as this person is just, this is who they are.
Right. Yep. Coming with stereotypes, coming with a whole bunch of other baggage, it's almost as indicating like they are less than, right? That person is broken.
Oh yeah.
Right. So
most definitely they're broken.
They're
they're not the human being or the person that they're supposed to be like all the rest of us. They are now broken and separated from all the rest of us.
Another point is you refrain from using inaccurate language. This one is hard because we have to learn to educate ourselves in the matter. You know, like if I was having a tough day, you know, like I remember being a teenager and being like, oh, feeling bipolar today, or I am, you know, I got bipolar disorder. If I had a wild swing of moods, and that was probably the furthest from the case.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember when I was a kid, and we would see somebody do something, you know, kind of ridiculous, and we'd say, "Oh, he's just retarded."
Yep.
that was just, he's just retarded.
Yep. It minimizes and trivializes, you know, those actual disorders, and you know, I think we're just kind of building up on the behavior. We're seeing the wave effect of like using this type of language over a longer period of time. Another good one is avoid using crazy or similar adjectives, calling someone crazy, insane, or psychotic. You know, like I would. This was a tough one because, you know, those are, in my mind, those have been encoded into my lexicon as adjectives. Does that make sense? Like, I had a crazy day today, when in reality, it's probably more akin to hectic.
Hectic, yeah.
Right. And same with, you know, I'm thinking about the word psychotic, you know, like how many times I used to describe that for a person, when in reality, like if somebody around me that I knew was going through a break in psychosis, that you know,
brutal.
I would not wish that upon anybody. So, again, that kind of aligns to, you know, just the empathy there, like, because, you know, like bringing those adjectives up, I understand that, we don't own the actions of others. The best we can do is lead and model the way.
Correct.
You know, all these items of raising our awareness, I want to say, is just an extension of the golden rule. It's easy for us to say, treat others how you want to be treated. But what does that really look like?
Yeah.
What does that really look like when we get into the daily language of everything? And I think this is part of it. The last point is, with all this stuff, is don't dismiss the struggle. Don't dismiss the struggle.
Yeah.
Just down your way out of it.
Yeah.
Go for a walk. You know, like just get over it.
Instead of actually looking to the person and saying, you know what, how can I help you? I see you're going through something really, really severe. How can I help you? I'm here for you. Whatever you need, just let me know. You know, instead of saying, well, just, you'll be fine. Just take a couple breaths and you'll work through it. It's fine.
Right. So, I mean, I'm glad we're able to talk about these things now. You know, like what does this kind of mean for you guys? You know, this is the first time we've really kind of hit this topic kind of head on. And
well, there's a lot of for me, there's a lot of different ways to attack some of this stuff. The one with having to, with really paying attention to what is coming out of my mouth. That's I think my the one I have to focus on the most, is because I'm so used to talking and just stuff flying out of my mouth.
We have verbal diarrhea. Yes. You know,
and not paying attention to what's going on until I say it and went, oh crap, I probably shouldn't have said that. So actually taking a step back, counting to 10 or taking a deep breath and really thinking about what I want to say is something that I'm working on personally. Because I don't want to say something and completely offend anybody.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Are you going to go into a deep thought?
That's my secret. There are already like at a large depth.
Well, what
there too much.
I was gonna. So this is kind of I just want to acknowledge too the lively chat. This is what I love, and welcome Felicia
Fulica. Felicima. Fulica.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the chat. So somewhere, somehow, over a year ago, I inadvertently started practicing this because it gave me a little bit of peace. where I'm going with that is once my pickled brain was sober for a while, it started to have a little bit more of a human interactive, social, conversational aspect to it. And what that means is I wasn't just, hungover speaking all the time, and just maybe sometimes when I would speak, it would be more of a self-embellishment aspect, which a lot of people do. It's I like this, and I'm this, and I'm better, and, fuck you because you look different.
Yeah.
So once I got a little bit more conscious and self-aware of that whole process, I started thinking more inclusive, if that makes sense at all. And it gives me it gives peace and quiet to the clown show sometimes. And I catch myself with, there's this guy that I know that he's got maybe not the best hygiene, and it's very quick to dismiss stuff like that. What I'm saying in a real bad way is I stopped when I engaged this individual, and I immediately, without thinking about it, it was cool because it was autopilot, and it went, hey, you don't know this guy's situation. This is what I want people to know about me. It's what we always want us to know about, It's like, hey, stop before you make this preconceived notion about him. You don't know his situation. He could have whatever going on. You go down the laundry list. And like I've always tried to tell people, like, you don't know my fucking situation when I'm in the heat of a depressive episode, and, trying to, speaking of psychosis, Patrick, that's a real, Judy saw me probably twice go through psychosis-induced depression. It's fucking hell, man. It's shit that people can't possibly imagine if you've never gone through it. So that was a long tirade in a bad circle that broke in the middle. But
I remember one thing I was taught when I was in a customer service class for when I worked in the medical field, and they said that say you're going through a drive-through and the person who's dealing with you is just bad customer service. You don't necessarily have to react to that. Take a step back and think about what might have happened to put this person in that state of mind. When you do that, you're able to take yourself out of the, oh, I'm being attacked mode, or, oh, how dare this person
break ego.
Yes. And you're taking another look at it, that this person may have lost a loved one today. You don't know what this person has gone through. So to react to the attack that they're giving to you is not the best way to deal with it. Now that is just a customer service way to do it, but it takes it down to, to really how to take yourself out of my own self-pity and my own ego, and open up and look at everybody, as their own person, as their own struggles, as their own issues that they're going through. And it's not all about me. It's everybody. It's
human service.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that. The scene in Ted Lasso, when he breaks down finally with the mental health.
Yes.
When he tells a story about his dad, and he's like, I just can't make it through the day without, thinking about somebody, what's going on in their story type of aspect. And he broke down about that, why he's so cheerful all the time. You bring up a good point about the power of empathy here. And what I'm going to start linking together is when we dealt with the booze all the time, we didn't even, our own emotions were so overwhelming that we were like, fuck it, get me out of here. I want to be somewhere else. And that was the coping mechanism. What's worse than our own emotions is somebody that made us feel the feels,
the feelings we didn't want to feel.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to fucking deal with my own stuff. And you're going to show up and be like, like I'm having a good day. And somebody's just like, like in despair or working through something. And like, now that I'm articulating this, like, it's not that I didn't have empathy. It's just that I was so scared of feeling my own emotions in that way. Like, you know, how dare you make me feel my own feels type of thing. Like, like I'm happy now. Like, don't take me out of that. Like, I don't know how to fix your shit, you know, and that's where the fixer one, you know, like shows up and he's like, puts on his cape and wants to save the day. And it's like, reality, I don't know how to deal with that. And recognizing that out from the get-go is important, because it was very tough for me, you know, with the little ones at home when they have their big emotions and they're learning how to deal with it as well. And it's like, you know, I can see where this language, it's easy, like the default, you know, where it just, a lot of our default is just so dismissive, because it's like, I don't know how to deal with that. So I'm going to fucking say, you know, like, just fucking rub some dirt in it and pick yourself up. Go. I don't need to deal with that. I don't need to hear it. And I become defensive. Like, don't bring your emotions in my space, because I don't want to become emotionally perturbed. And it's from that, if you listen to that dialogue, who's speaking there? That's all ego all the way.
Yeah.
Me, I. This world is revolving around me. How dare you like bring emotions in that space? How dare you act to make me reflect upon myself? And now the exercise being like, when extending empathy, what does extending empathy do? You have to think outside.
Oh yeah. Outside of yourself, outside of your own pity, self-loathing, or, woe is me type of attitude. You have to actually put that aside and think about what somebody else is going through.
So there are cases, and we've seen this with other fixers, that they don't want to feel about their feelings so much that they're involved in making others happy or dealing with other people's feelings.
Because it's easier to deal with theirs than
their
it is
own.
their own. Yeah.
Let's start so in the case of that person, the person that had hygiene issues, John.
Yeah.
You know, I was beginning to think about this. I'm like, what can we ultimately do if we can't change the actions of others? The best we can do is lead and model the way. And that is just clearly articulating needs, wants, and desires. And I remember that situation in my head when I dealt with somebody similar, when I'd be like, whoa, dude, what the fuck? You know, like, here's some baby wipes, just go deal with it. Or like, being dismissive.
One or two under the pit, man.
Or if your kids, what did that look like when you were in 3rd and 4th grade? Oh, a fucking smelly kid.
Oh my
Right?
gosh. Oh,
Right?
and God forbid that your clothes were moldy because your folks didn't get them out of the washer in time. Oh
Right.
my goodness.
Right. Now we're beginning sympathy here because we can understand why that may be. So how may we broach that subject with that person? This is the suck part. It's easier to be dismissive rather than like, well, now I have to sit time. How am I feeling about this? How am I going to articulate my needs, wants, and desires? I don't need to the fixer in me would be like, oh, hey, I can get you some shower passes. I can get you some, hey, try this soap. Hey, do this. Like, what would be the way to get, try and understand that person's space? It isn't like trying to come out immediately at it and be like, hey, dude, you smell. I'm worried about you. It's talking with the person and trying to understand their perspective, like, hey, and then at some point you also have to bring up from your perspective, I really value our relationship. It is critical that we continue talking and, it is important to me, but it is difficult for me sometimes to be in the same physical space because of this, and you have to learn to deal with that. Like, they may react poorly to that. They may react well, but the best is trying to find the I don't want to say right language, but language that is trying to be aware of the situation most. Least
Yeah, because
dismissive.
you don't want to come out and completely make them feel like shit because you're being completely offended by their whatever's going on. But you still want to relay, hey, is there anything I can do to help? Is there, are you going through any kind of struggle or anything that I can help you with? But
so how does this tie back into the inclusivity of the
Dogs want to party. They're missing out.
dogs are
They just want to be
scratching at the door.
included.
Yeah, talk about inclusion. The dogs are like, I just want to be included. I just want to be in there. I don't. That's a tough one.
Well, you know, we're not going to have all the answers right away. And you know what? Some of the best people to talk about, this is where the diversity aspect comes into play. Like, we get to sit down with people dealing with these issues and ask them if that person has, you know, like, you have to talk to them, find out some of the issues, and create spaces where they feel comfortable and have that high degree of trust. This is, I mean, you got to do this with, I mean, just about anybody in your aspect. If somebody's going through something, you know, like, the best tools I learned about getting sober were from fucking alcoholics.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Right?
I think one of the things that helped. I've had a couple of those situations happen throughout my life. To where I had a coworker that I was able to talk with and just sit down with her and say, hey, what I could see something's going on. Can I help you? Is there anything I can do for you? And for a lot of people, that's all they needed was somebody just to come up to them and say, hey, I noticed you're going through something hard. Is there anything I can help you with? And then once they were able to talk about it, they're able to, even just to talk about it to someone, it helps them tremendously, and they're able to move on or progress or whatever they're able to do. That doesn't happen all the time. But if you're able to put yourself aside and use empathy towards another person, sometimes that's all it takes. It's just that one conversation.
Yep. So for the example that we're talking about, you know, sharing your experience and sharing vulnerability is important to make connection too, you know?
Yeah.
Hey, I wanted to like broach a subject with you because I didn't know how to do it in an easy manner, but I had an aunt that had some endocrinology issues, and she, when she was around, she emitted a certain scent, and we didn't know anything about that, and we dismissed it early, and it ended up being something with hormones, right? Or something like that.
Yeah.
And you know, This is finding people and asking people who've been through the issues. Before the podcast here, I shared the parable of the Buddha, about a woman that went to the Buddha and said, my child just died. Please help me get over this and move past this so I don't have to feel this grief. And he said, okay, bring me a mustard seed from a household that has not experienced death. And she went to the village, asked everybody that she knew. She went out like in the neighboring villages and asked everybody she knew, and she could not find a mustard seed from a house that did not experience death. You know, to the point being is these are all things that we deal with. We just may not have been exposed to it yet in our life. Meaning, in the situation we're talking about with the person with hygiene, there are probably other people around that have had that same issue and maybe either resolved it and worked through it. Maybe they can be a voice or somebody to listen to grow that empathy or space. Be like, hey, I'm having issue, or I am struggling how to approach this person. And I know that, you know, they shared before, you know, like this is like the benefit of getting over mental health and sharing some of these issues. The more I see people that have gone through behaviors like me, the more I can relate. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised at how many conversation pathways get opened up when you just sort of plant the seed. Like Fem Armory was saying, sometimes keeping the topic generic. Yeah, that can help too. I have found that when we exude a level of empathy right away during especially a stranger conversation, you break through a huge social barrier really quick. I've done this so many times inadvertently just because you guys know I'm very open about my
I was just thinking the exact same thing.
alcoholism.
Hi, I'm John. I'm sober. And you know what? Half the conversations are like, oh, okay, John.
Yeah.
But what about the other half?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I get it. A lot of people, there's so many folks out there that have mental health struggles and addiction and alcoholism struggles, and I met quite a few people that are just, they instantly become open about it. It's almost like they get relieved, like, oh man, cool, finally someone else to share this with in our stuffy corporate environment. And I think that has a lot to do with maybe not having your ego trying to embrace your empathy either. Those two, I don't know if they can live happily together. They need to be in the same room sometimes, but not all up on each other.
That's a good way to put it, because ego, we often talk about breaking ego, but I've also advocated like ego is awesome in a lot of ways because he is how he interprets the world for you. You are the center, like everything is experiencing. You got to find some way to interface with everything. And ego is born out of that, creating that sense of identity, right? But you also have to give credence to like, it's not your world. It's just not this port. It's not just me, right? Learning that you exist in a larger context is important. And that's where you have to learn that balance. So I like the way you put that, saying that like, you know, sometimes ego and empathy, like I feel like ego gets upset dealing with empathy because he's like, that's energy expended elsewhere, right? That's not on me. So I'm losing. But what we find is when from the golden rule, treat others like how you want to be treated, or I don't own the actions of others. The best I can do is lead and model the way. I can't tell my son to like, you know, I can't just be like, stop having a shitty behavior. You know, I have to exude, you know, sitting down and listening and empathy and those items. And I know he's small and he's learning how to deal with that. But man, I tell you, that day that I came home, or I can't remember, got done with work, I'm like, I just can't deal with it now. I had
I like
tough
this story. Brace yourselves.
And he's like, hey, Dad, you just want to play with Legos, or you should go play with Legos or something, you know? And that was his way. And I was just like, wow, you know, like I didn't, part of my ego was selfish. Like, hey, look what I taught him. Right. But that's kind of the idea, like, when words become thoughts become actions become behavior, the more you can grow your little tree for that, you know, the more likely those actions are going to happen. You know, if you're using inclusive and empathetic behavior, the more likelihood that it's going to come back to you.
Yes.
Well, yeah, the another Buddhist philosophy is what is going on inside of you is also going to be mirrored in your environment.
Well, and this is a good behavioral tip and trick, and it's, you know, one of the AA fundamental principles too, and that is go do something nice for someone else.
I love that
Yeah.
return. Like if you're struggling in here,
Yeah.
or you know, the return to service, the just or extracting yourself from like ego. Ego is like a feedback loop sometimes, and when you're thinking about self, this is all self-isolating tendencies, and you just continue to delve into that. And for whatever reason, we are wired as human beings to get the feel-good stuff from physical connection with people, right? And
We are communal beings.
we are communal beings, and it is so nice to see, like, you know, so don't, you know, this is what I talk about, growing the little tree, and I'm very thankful of, you know, the small interactions where we do get to add something positive to the world, right?
This all kind of reminds me of with the ego and empathy, and it reminds me of the movie Happy, where you've got all the different characters in one little girl's head, where she's got happy and sad and angry and all, and they're all, you know, functioning in. They all learn that they all are necessary.
Yes.
They all are symbiotic, or should work symbiotic with each other. But
Inside
they're
Out.
all inside out. Yeah,
they're
that's
making
right.
a second one of that with more
I
complex feelings.
keep calling it Happy, but anyway, so they, you know, it's a good, it's a kids movie, but the fundamentals of it are really good.
Yep. Fem Army vet brings up a good point. Found that having a pet service animal gives her purpose.
Yeah, the whole chat went crazy because Ozzy was trying to get in here.
Yep.
Talking
And
about
I mean, guys,
stealing the show.
I'll do this shortly, but I talked to you about this before. Like in my darkest days when I was like constantly telling myself that I was a piece of shit and nothing good was going to happen to me. My dog gave the one thing that I could not even contemplate and felt so unworthy of, and that is unconditional love.
Oh, yeah.
No matter the day, whatever, she was always there to be able to show up. And, you know, that's like a small little ember, you know, to start that passion of like learning to be empathetic. Like an animal like that is, you know, the responsibility of feeding and caring for an animal in order to help foster that unconditional love. You can't tell the dog to give that to you. The best you can do is give that animal a space to thrive and be healthy.
Yeah.
Right? This is exactly what we're talking about. This is, you know, if you want to care for a service animal, you know, you can't tell it what to do exactly. It's providing that space. Same with our words. This is how we treat our environment around us. You know, if you want that unconditional love to you, it's out there and it comes in many different ways. We can't tell the world to give it to us. We have to help foster the pathways for it to come to us.
I like it. It also goes back to your comment about sobriety not being opening the gates to heaven, but opening the gates to hell so you can walk out.
Yep.
Yeah. I also I wanted to touch on the conversation about the dialogue of somebody who is going through either mental health or going through sobriety or going through, you know, a difficult situation, instead of saying, you know, that person is sloppy drunk, or that person is, you know, a manic depressive, or that person is bipolar or something like that. Instead of saying that person is going through that problem or that dysfunction, I think it really touches on the inclusiveness of changing our dialogue to be more inclusive. I really enjoy the fact that takes that stigma off of that person and just allows them to be a person with this problem, instead of being that person is that problem. That's all that person is. Because people are so complex and so diverse and extraordinary. And when you take that label and you put it on them, you've just taken every other potential away from that person by calling them what they are, instead of saying they're going through that issue.
Yep. I feel like Mr. Rogers right now, seeing like, you know,
Are you going to go to the
I see you, I love you, and you're perfect just the way you are.
Yeah.
You know, and this isn't trying to be snowflakey about it, or like, you know,
Let's go hug
everybody,
some trees.
let's go hug some trees. What I'm trying to say is like, that doesn't not absolve anybody from accountability in their actions.
Correct.
Right. You know, but I am empathetic to the person. I guess this is closer to the Christian love the sinner, hate the sin type of concept. Meaning, you know, like there are ways where we can foster a healthy environment, and you're perfect just the way you are doesn't mean you're like a being in stasis and you're just going to stay that way. Right.
Yeah. You're always going to be like that.
You know, we're always in a constant growth, you know, in constant change, always in growth. You know, like I see you struggling. I see you trying to raise awareness, and I love you. And because everybody,
I love you too, Patrick.
I love you too, man. Now you're going to make me feel the feels. Gosh, dang it. Everybody, at the end of the day, I would like to, maybe I'm an optimist that way, but I would hate to live in a world thinking different. And I did live in a world that was different, and it nearly destroyed me.
Wait, so you don't like far right principles? There, I said it.
That
I
is
thought we weren't going to go political here.
We weren't.
the same people that we feel frustrated against
Yeah.
are the same ones that I need to say, I
know.
I love you.
I know.
Because in their hearts, I am an optimist to the point that I believe, everybody's just trying to do their best. Meaning, and that means if they've let ego take over, they're going to give ego the reins. Ultimately, at the end of the day, they just want to do the best. And I think that's what's really awesome about this world is that we're always continuing to grow and evolve. But I don't want to be here if my pre-gone conclusion is everything exists in a state of suck.
Right.
Yeah, because you know what? It's always going to stay in that state of suck. If that's what you're thinking everything is, that's how it's going to be.
Yeah. And see what I just did there when I made that comment. That's a thing I'm trying to get away from too, because I put all of those belief systems into a bundle of people that are not good people. I don't even know any of those people.
Yeah, you're being dismissive.
I am. I'm very dismissive, but
Because I think there's a lot of anger from if we're talking about political spectrum of stuff, I think there's a lot of anger that people have that has not been validated and they have not gotten the space to work through it. They just don't know how to articulate it in the right way or direct hate towards certain groups is like alcoholism to the point that they're using it as a coping mechanism from keeping themselves from getting to the actual problems at hand.
right. And admitting defeat or having an issue with something is an ultimate sign of weakness. It's not being manly. It is not being a good American.
Yeah, I mean, and this comes back with the stigma, being vulnerable and stuff. If I have to admit that I am not correct, if I have to admit that I'm vulnerable or less than, that means I'm broken. That means ego is that my world that I built in my head is wrong. That means I don't exist. That means I'm not validated.
Yeah.
You can see we've talked about this, the stupid fucking layers that we build up in order to feel happy, right? And it manifests in all certain ways as we develop. But ultimately at the bottom of it is a desire to be validated. Ego going, pay attention to me.
Yeah.
Pay attention to me.
It takes work though. It takes a lot of practice. It takes
And unfortunately, when we were kids, a lot of that was how we were taught on how to deal with those emotions.
yeah. And my foundation is built around those labels too. Everyone in my family is dead. That's no secret except for my brother. He's the only one left alive. And there was always the aunt. She was the heroin junkie. It was those terms that were used. It was, the mom, she's the pill junkie. It's and then, Dad and Uncle Barry, they were the drunks. These are words that got thrown around even from those people that were with, ironically, it was the drunks versus the heroin junkies. Who's better about being able to manage their situation?
I need validation.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
in that small microcosm, the ego still finds a way to I need validation here,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So listening to those, I caught myself on one of the solo things I did when I was talking about medication. I'm like, something about a heroin junkie. And I really caught myself and I apologized about that because, well, obviously it's not a couth thing to say, but all that said, it takes practice and some internalization and for me, a good moment of being honest with myself. Because I've always praised myself on being inclusive. Especially
Yeah,
I'm the gay crusader. Everyone knows. I was coined the king of the gays in San Francisco by some coworkers. but it's when I think that I'm inclusive this way and completely not racist. Sometimes I take a look at myself and I ask, John, how inclusive are you? Because you might make pockets of non-segregation, if you will.
We all have biases.
Yeah,
we
for
all
sure.
have
Yeah.
biases.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's I can only speak for myself. It's a constant. It's a constant. a constant work on watching what I'm saying, watching what I'm thinking, watching my reactions, because I would like to be that better person. I don't want to have these reactions, but sometimes they just, that's where something happens and boom, that's the first reaction that pops up. So yeah, I'm still a work in progress.
Patrick is clearly a saint, but you
St. Patrick's.
St. Patrick.
This is a safe, this is a good space where I can sit and try and like, how many episodes are we at now? Like
38.
So we've had time to practice to like articulate the banter, the pacing, the back and forth, and understanding and trusting each other. Like I said, you know, you catch me in the morning, you know, woken up by a cat who needs to be fed now, and I wheel around to the bathroom and there's a whole roll of toilet paper in there. I have a hard time like trying to articulate directly what's going on inside here, right? Other words come out of my mouth at that point.
Yes.
So it's,
Yes.
it's as we create this space, you know, we have been mindful to like help grow this space. You know, we've challenged ourselves on topics. We've gone to the depth on the items to work through that stuff. And that's helped me out in the other aspects of the life. I'm not going to go out there and fix, you know, racism or other ignorance. And I have my own biases to work through. But at the same time, if I can help cultivate those little spaces, the return on that is going to be even better. Right. So my opportunity to grow and recognize my biases will present themselves if I am contributing to that space.
Yeah, this show's definitely helped me increase my toolbox and increase help grow my garden a lot. Just sitting here going through these topics.
You know, I have a hard time sometimes with older relatives. You know, we've been at the Thanksgiving where like, that's just what grandma says, or that's just what, you know, she says because she's from a different generation. That is really hard to do because they didn't have the same tools as available for us. You know, like the coping mechanisms and the stigmas were even larger back then. So I am sympathetic towards that. And I often wrestle with, well, like, how do I hold them accountable? And I had a funny incident. I didn't share this with you, but on my trip over Thanksgiving, I had one of those incidents where somebody was like, don't you feel like, you know, the immigrants coming in, they don't respect our country? And immediately, your immediate response is like, oh, Jesus H. Like, are we seriously doing this? And I sat with it. It made me super uncomfortable. And it was great because it unfolded like this. She's like, we're in DC and the immigrants here, they don't appreciate like all the monument. And because I talked about how our family went and visited the mall. And I said we went and visited the Lincoln Memorial, got to see the Washington Monument, got to see the Capitol building. And, you know, here's this person, you know, automatically with a bias going like, these people don't respect that. And I said, you know what? I can't make them go. I can't make them love America. The best I can show is like when I show up and my kids are there, and they see all different sorts of people, you know, coming to these things. The best I can do is share that experience with them and have them enjoy seeing all that and cherish that. Like, if respecting these monuments is the important thing, or like knowledge of that shared history, then do that. I can't say, John, go love Washington Monument, you know, like, and so. Of course, there's some back and forth there, and it's like, well, they should know. So here's the started shooting all over thing. And I said, well, this is part of the naturalization. They have to go through quite a few items in naturalization, history and political understanding, and the inner workings of like how our government goes. And you know, they were like, well, they just don't care. And I was at least cognitive stuff to pull up a naturalization test.
Oh
It's
boy.
tough.
And if anybody who ever wants to get into that debate, it was a funny one because that got dismissed immediately in a few minutes.
Oh,
I bet those are tough questions.
But
Yeah, they
it
are.
stopped the conversation. But you know what? I'd like to think I did so in a constructive manner to the point where I wasn't immediately dismissive of their, they had some frustrations that they felt weren't getting reflected. Maybe it came from that they lived in DC and didn't get as many opportunities to go out and enjoy that. Or, they assumed certain things. New things are scary. The DC that they grew up in looks different now. But does that mean the values have changed? Or, does that mean, it's scary and unknown and it's breaking my prediction modeling behavior in my brain. So I'm just going to lump everything together and just say like, yeah, you're fucking wrong. Deal with it.
And that's a good example. Generational gaps are interesting to navigate because I catch myself doing it a lot with, Dad. He's in his 80s. And I catch myself and practicing a lot because the ideals are completely different. And, I don't want to, there's always a stop like, Jesus, calm down, John. Because there's always this like, why would you not know that? Or how do you not understand how to behave like that? And blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, if someone were to tell me that's 30 years my younger, it's the exact same conversation. So I always got to humble myself to remember.
That's right there, taking yourself out of your own ego.
Yeah.
Taking the time to talk with the people and understanding their situation. With that same person, a couple days later, they were of the silent generation. And I don't know, we were doing some clean out of the house, and I don't know if you've ever dealt with people of the silent generation.
What is that? I don't know what that is.
The silent generation,
People that don't talk about.
no. Silent generation is before the boomers.
Oh, okay.
So they're, born of the 30s. They
As in silent films?
yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
I thought it was people who don't talk about their emotions and
So
don't.
the greatest generation, it's, those were of age during World War II. Silent Gen was like slightly after that, Depression era, and then Boomer. And then, so just to give the age frame.
Boomer was after the war, right?
Yes. The baby boom.
Yeah.
My point is talking to people about trying to organize material goods in the house. There was a joke during the pandemic when a lot of services weren't available. And I think I saw a meme of like, y'all about to find out why grandma saved the foil and washed it after the meal, right?
Yeah.
There's this, well, they were born of a time and where resources were scarce, so they had to go through all that. And
Yeah.
so develop coping mechanisms and emotional attachments. If you went through a tough time and resources weren't available and your best action was improving your defensive positioning, collecting all the foil that I can get would alleviate pain in the future, you sure as hell gonna like learn how to like just turn to that coping mechanism all the time, right? So hoarding certain material items or like, there's behaviors wrapped up into that. My point is, those are developed from our own world maps, from her experiences growing up in the areas that she did and the traumas and everything that they dealt with. Only until I sat down with her and talked to her about that and gave her, like I'm not trying to make a 90-year-old person be like, all right, let's drop it all out and start dealing with the shit that that you need dealt with. Because guess what? At that age, I'm just gonna say it like we reach a certain, well, you said it too, at a certain point at like 30, mid 30s, the brain's pretty much locks in a lot of their
Behavioral.
behavior mechanisms.
I think it was 35.
Yeah. The point is, she was an important member of the family. We're all not perfect, and understanding her aspects. I was not trying to dismiss accountability for some of her behavior, but I'm also not a behavior police to be like, F you, what you're doing is wrong. The best I can do is articulate my needs, wants, and desires. Sometimes that's setting up boundaries. Sometimes that's like, hey, I appreciate your company, but we can only interact in these situations right? You know, setting clear guidelines, you know, and this is what the words have to do. You know, I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but again, it's words shaping the environment that we're in, you know, knowing that like there are certain behaviors that you engage in that I'm not going to be able to fix.
Yeah, it's showing respect to them and also showing respect to yourself at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah, man, that's a lot to think about. I like the shows, Patrick, when you give me a good Saturday to ponder things while I'm gaming.
While he's gaming.
But with that,
I just want to blow shit up. I don't want to feel the feels.
yeah.
I just want to smash my bag of Reese's.
Yeah.
Again, it takes work to think about that stuff. I got coached. I think I told you the story, Patrick. So, and people in the past, they'd complain about stuff at work, and I'd be like, all you're doing is moving a mouse around and typing on a keyboard. You're not dodging bullets and mortar fire and walking around in fucking 118 degree Kuwaiti heat. I got coached on that, and they're like, John, you can't really say that. I'm like, why not? They're like, well, they don't understand that perspective. It's like, well, they should.
Yeah. Right.
So, after that, that was my ego saying, that was my drunken ego saying, well, they should understand the perspective. And
This is America. Freedom ain't free.
Yeah.
Understand that.
Yeah. God damn it. Then, when I'd sit back and think about that, there's a lot that goes with that. Well, they should understand. If you put that whole process back on yourself, you can really practice some humbling behavior. Mm-hmm. And that is if you start to, I think again, it goes with ego. If you could start to slough off a lot of those processes, like what you went through, and then mine aren't nearly as dramatic, but with someone that has a generation gap, same thing, like, well, he should know this or whatever. That is such a weird thing for us to even think. Like, well,
That's ego.
yeah, it's so heavy ego loaded. It's crazy.
Ego saying, in my mind, a person of this group, so you're already creating bias. An older person should know X. Like in your mind, you have this image of an older person doing certain actions. You're like, well, yeah, that's an older person. They do X, Y, and Z. This is an older person not doing X, Y, and Z. They should know. They're not fitting my model. What the fuck is going on here? And then you start giving out negative emotions and energy of why that's not fitting your behavior. And it manifests in, like destructive behavior or, like being intolerant of certain things.
Well, it's also the same thing that somebody who's an alcoholic. They should know better.
Yep.
I mean, that's a perfect example. They should know that alcohol is going to destroy them. Why do they keep doing it?
Yeah. Then we put those labels on people at a grand sociological experiment almost, and that is, like the fucking millennials. That man, they
should know
such
better.
A huge. I caught myself getting wrapped up in that too, where the Gen Xers, I'm going to think we're Gen Xers or whatever, but it's this weird, how weird is that? Be like, you fucker, you were born on this year.
You're in a monolithic block. You should know better, right?
Yeah. But you can also
what are we doing?
You can also take that same thought process and turn it inwards and say that, well, I'm an adult. I should know better.
Right.
Oh man, that's another episode to unpack. When I thought I was
box.
18, I'm an adult, like everything's going to be different. And I realize that most adults that I know are still teenagers dealing with their arrested development, right?
Yes.
Like I had these expectations, like, you're an adult. The rules go a certain way. Like you get your manual and you follow it, right? That's the world.
Yeah.
Furthest thing from the, and the trauma occurs from the first. It couldn't be further from the truth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ego and self-criticism. Horrible combination.
Yep. So,
Yep.
All right. We're getting that time.
All right.
We're doing our ramblings. I feel like this was a strong topic, and I'm glad that we brought it up. So thank you to the community
Yes.
for helping broach this topic. We got another one teed up from the community next week.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. From the community, from the one and only Odie. He brought up, let's talk about addiction from the other side of the table.
Yes. People who are dealing with a loved one who is going through that problem.
Yeah. So we're gonna next weekend we'll be unpacking that.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. We
Yeah.
really appreciate it. We appreciate everybody who's listening also to the podcast. The listeners of the podcast, if you could, we'd really be grateful if you could go over to YouTube and hit that little subscribe button on our YouTube channel. We'd really appreciate it.
youtube.com/@sobermind. Oh, also, you're welcome, Odie. Also, we have the technology figured out. Sorry for the last 3 episodes. So it's the Spotify plugin in OBS. We're gonna fix that. We will not have an audio issue. Odie should have told me about that.
You can go on his stream at ODN7 over at Twitch and bother him. So
Yes.
see if because he takes pride in trying to get us off our kilter and make us laugh. So you can go over there and do the same.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Fim. Thank you, Fulica, Michelle, Lisa, everyone that joined. Nice, lively chat today. We love it.
Yes, fantastic.
And soon we will solidify some plans, and we might have a special guest in January
Fingers crossed.
joining remotely or coming into the studio. So
Hopefully in studio. I'm looking forward to that one as well.
I'll make a smoked salmon. All right.
Or we could talk to them and see what they might appreciate.
Yeah. Heck
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
Okay, everyone. I'm ending the show. We'll talk to you next weekend.
Bye.
Bye.